First up this week, some changes coming to Fortress 1. Multiple hits in one swing proved to be too powerful for the spy. This change has been modified, so now the hit can land in any of the 4 frames, but will only land once per swing. More significant changes coming to the ammo drops. Now when players drop ammo packs, they will contain a standard amount of ammo. This change eliminates the need to discard ammo on every spawn. I spoke to lead developer Zell about these changes and his perspective on Fortress 1. Hey, so this new ammo pack change makes it so you don't need to drop on spawn, so that kind of eliminates an unnecessary mechanic there. Has that been a focus of yours in making Fortress 1?
Hey man, yeah. So the goal with Fortress 1, honestly, is that I wanted to play TF. Quake World TF. And because that was my game. And so I started to build it. And now I'm playing it, so that's good. So now the goal is just to keep playing it. And my position is that the only way that I'll be able to keep playing this game is if we have new players joining the community and becoming regular players. And so pretty much every gameplay change that I make is with that in mind. How can I make the game, without changing the gameplay, the things that we love about it, how can I make it easier for new players to join? So that's the same thing with like the auto hop. So you can still bunny hop the old way if you want. It doesn't really affect the ceiling, but it raises the floor a bit, so it compresses it and just makes it better for newer players. And with the engineer in particular, there's like 3 different things that are non-intuitive, and not doing them is going to cause a penalty to you and your team. So those things were, I mean, in the original TF, one is the EMP grenade would do more damage to those who didn't discard. So people would need to discard on spawn. And then people were like, well, you know, I still want to hold on to, like for example, the heavy weapons guy, he would discard, but he needed cells just to spin up his gun. So he would hold all of his cells.
Yeah.
So Evil Ant wrote some code to allow the player to discard but hold on to X amount of cells. I think it's 40 by default. But then, you know, we changed the EMP grenade so that it doesn't actually matter. So in terms of damage, you don't actually have to discard. So we're like, okay, cool, discard mechanic's gone. But of course it wasn't gone, because if you don't discard on spawn, then you're still dropping cells for the engineer to build sentries.
Yeah.
So people were having scripts, you know, and different ways of working around it. But it basically meant that new players just were at a disadvantage from the get-go just because they didn't have particular scripts or, you know, that sort of thing. It's kind of unintuitive. You don't really realize until someone tells you. And so, yeah, this piece is kind of also from Evil Ant was just to make it so that the packs that you drop when you die are standardized. They can be configured. I don't remember exactly what they are. I think you drop 50 cells at the moment. It might be 20 rockets, something like that. I forget the shells and nails, but it can all be configured so we can play with that. But yeah, that's the basic idea. So you just don't need to discard. There's no reason to discard when you spawn, so it just takes that element out of the game. But you can still share a pack to your teammates.
Right. Yep.
And so as a result, we need to be able to distinguish what's a discarded pack, what's a death pack, and what's a pack that, you know, because a lot of the maps use that same backpack model for the restock as well. So that's why we've got the different models. There's still one piece to come. So that is, there's still something that some of the best longest players have, which is if you're an engineer and you've got 190 cells, and there's a pack there that someone's dropped and it's got 200 cells in it, well, if you pick it up, you get 10 cells and you burn 190. So some of the best players have then got scripts so that they'll spam, drop cells before they pick up the pack, go and recharge the sentry or whatever, and then those cells are still there. So
I always saw it as a bit of a dance. You gotta dance around the packs that you don't want to pick up. So you use your cells first. But that's not an intuitive skill, you're right, so...
It's not intuitive, and I don't actually think it's that fun either.
No, yeah. That's not the game that we're playing. We're playing Team Fortress. We're not playing the pick up packs game.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I know there's a lot of games out there that have, like, people who are very good at... Like, I haven't seen it, but I've heard that there are games where players who can equip and unequip items very quickly have a significant advantage or something like that. But I just don't think that's right for Quake or Team Fortress, because I think it's more of the flowy kind of smooth game.
Let's just get
there is
to
another
the core
piece
of it. And
that's right. Yeah,
play the real game.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's another piece coming which will. I mean, everything's an option. We don't force anything. We turn them on at staging, and then if people like it, we kind of add it as default, and people don't like it, we turn it off as default. But the last thing will be if you pick up a backpack and you can't pick up all the cells, it just sort of explodes. If there's 40 cells in it you can't pick up, it'll just explode into 40 cells as you hop away.
Okay, and the cells will be left there on the ground.
They'll stay there for however long drop ammo cells last, which isn't
great.
Yeah, I think it just makes more sense. So it's like all those things that people use scripts for or have certain things that they do, it just brings them into the game itself and it does it for you. You don't need to understand why you're doing it or what's going on. So
that'll let the engineer focus on the sentry gun, where to put it, and how to play that, rather than the bags and picking up or not picking up. I think that's great.
Yeah, or it often turns out when there's a new player, it's screaming at them like,
why'd you pick up that bag?
Make sure you discard before you get killed. Like, if you have a pyro on your team and they're not discarding when they spawn and they're dropping 200 cells, that's awesome for the enemy engineer. So and there's just no real feedback. Like, you don't really know you're doing that. And I've got to admit, I've been playing since 98 or something like that, and I still forget sometimes. Someone will have to remind me halfway through the game, hey, you're not discarding every spawn. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, typically anytime I reach for a script for myself, where I'm like, okay, I actually need a script to do this for me, and it's not hard to write these sorts of scripts, but then I'm like, well, when it gets to that point, I know that it should just be in the game and it should be available for anyone who wants it by default.
Yeah, that's a good philosophy.
Yeah.
So anything else on the horizon for FO you're thinking, or you're playing it by ear and seeing the problems as they come up?
Yeah, I mean, there's something like 200 issues in the GitHub, which are bugs and feature requests and nice to haves and all that. I just want to get it onto Steam. I think it's really the number one goal. So at the moment, when I get time, I'm working on just replacing all of the non-free assets with free ones. And that should be enough, I think. We'll apply to Valve and see what they say. They might be funny about it because they own Team Fortress.
Right.
But
they've made other exceptions. That's
right, yeah. So that's it. And just fixing bugs. Like right now, there's a bug. Well, there was. That's the other thing that has just come out. I know that you talked about it in the last chat, but we've added a few things since. So that's the forgiving melee. So originally it was just the knife. So the idea is that, basically the complaint that I heard quite a bit was that it's extremely hard to get a stab the spy when you're high ping.
Right, with just the one frame window.
Yeah, you've got a one frame window, so you got to account for the fact that it's already delayed by 2 frames, plus your ping at the point that you come into contact with the player. And so sometimes it doesn't, like and when you click, he swings straight away. So the 3rd frame, actually, where the hit comes is like after the whole animation is completed. And so that's kind of confusing. So I was like, well, how is it in other games? And so I tried a couple of other games and I was just like, oh, right. it seemed to me that melee was instant in every other game that I tried it in. So I did that for the knife originally. People really liked it. They didn't like the multi-hit, and I kind of agree. It just seemed a bit more like a chainsaw than a knife.
A little overpowered.
Yeah.
Especially.
I still liked it, but it felt too much of a change, and just a lot of it's about feeling, and I just felt like that multi-hit didn't feel right, so I've turned that off.
No, I think you hit the right balance now, where you can hit anywhere in that window, but without the spam melee hits.
Yeah, and so we've turned that on for the axe and for the medikit and the spanner. That introduced a bug. Well, it didn't actually. It's funny. It didn't introduce a bug. There's actually a long-standing bug which we just didn't know about, which is that when you're topping up your sentry gun and also healing a teammate, the animation would stop playing when the hit occurred. So previously that was in the 3rd frame out of 4. So you didn't really notice it. It's like it would reset the animation on the 3rd frame when the hit was made. But when now the hit can happen in the 1st frame, no animation plays at all.
It's like an animation canceling.
Yeah, so that was like, oh, this is a weird bug. But yeah, it turned out that it was actually a long existing bug. It just wasn't obvious. So I've put in a fix for that yesterday.
You didn't.
But it was a.
You didn't want to introduce the mechanic of animation canceling. High skill mechanics. It's a big part of League of Legends.
No, I don't even know what that is. What is animation canceling?
Well, when you start an attack and then as soon as possible after that you move or something like that, and then you're able to attack again before you normally would. So it's a similar thing. So you hit with your spanner, but you're able to hit again with it because you don't have to go through the full animation.
Yeah, well that's exactly
not the
what
kind
it
of
was.
mechanics that we want.
Yeah. It's still a little bit not sure, like if this is a good thing or a bad thing. I haven't really tested it, but so now you know on the swing you can hit on any frame, which means you might hit on the 4th frame, and then you might hit if you keep swinging, like don't release attack. You might hit on the 1st frame of the next swing. So you can still get like a 2-frame hit if you hit on the 4th and then the 1st. So then there is still kind of an advantage of swinging before you get to someone, because you really want to hope that you actually hit them on the 4th frame, so you might actually get 2 hits in one almost.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how I feel about that. It has been suggested that maybe make it so that if it hit on the 4th frame and you haven't released attack, then it will hit on the 4th frame. Like there's always a 4-frame gap between hits or something like that. So that's possible as well, but it's still a bit weird. Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure, but I might just leave it and just have that as a little bit of an extra thing that you can, if you do swing early, there is still a slight advantage to doing that. But it also means like if you're a medic and you're on a high ping, it's not too hard to heal your teammates and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
So the only thing I put in a fix for the weird spannery stuff yesterday, but what I did, so there's like a function that has been there since 1997, and it resets the weapon animation along with a lot of other stuff, and it gets called all the time. There's like 49 different places in the code where it gets called. One of those places is when you put cells into the sentry. But I tried really hard just to think, well, when do I actually want the gun animation to reset? Like, it's too hard to work out all these 49 calls, what the situation is when they arise, but when do I actually want it? And I can't think of any time where I actually want it to do that. So I've just removed it. I've said, I'll just not ever reset the gun animation at least mid-game in these 49 other places. And we've played now 24 hours with it on. I've heard a few, and I've asked for feedback, tell me if anything's broken, because I want to know. And yeah, I'm not sure it has any negative effect, so I'm just going to keep it on a bit longer and see if it does introduce a bug.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting things about working with the legacy code. You don't even know why some of those functions are in there, it may have been to fix some other bug that isn't there anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Or who knows? Like it's a weird one. It's called everywhere, and it does a lot. So I didn't want to mess with it, like not call it or change it too much, but I'll just remove that a tiny bit. So far, so good.
That's great. I think it's heading in the right direction for sure. This will be even smoother, easier to pick up. And it's already so smooth and so easy to pick up.
Well, I'm glad that you said that. I've certainly heard the other side of that as well.
For a Fortress game.
For a Fortress game, yeah, that's right. For the hardest game, it's. Although, yeah, I think you're right in terms of, like, I mean, I've tried TFC and Fortress forever, and
yeah, there's just mechanics in there that aren't intuitive, like we've been talking about, and even for Fortress players, some of the jumps and other mechanics take a long time to develop, and so it's just not possible sometimes for new players to get in there. It becomes a real problem.
Yeah. I mean, we have that problem too, obviously, and I don't know what we'll ever do about it, but Steam is it's my big hope.
Yep.
And, like, I think it's, in terms of the quality of the game, like, I think it's good enough. It's not great. There's lots of things that I want to fix, but I think it's good enough. So now it's just the assets. Of course, it won't look great, but I'll have it set so that if you do want to download, if you do have Quake and all you have to do is copy your pack files from Quake into that directory and it'll pick those up, so it'll give them preference.
So is that the assets? Is just the Quake packs? I wonder if you can't run off the shareware pack, or what all you need in there.
We can't distribute the. You can distribute the shareware, but it has to be unmodified.
Oh, okay.
But obviously, Fortress 1 is pretty heavily modified, so we can't use their assets at all. There is a project called LibreQuake.
Yeah.
And I've used those and combined that with Open Quartz, which is another very old Quake asset replacement project, which is completely defunct. But so after I combined those two, there was only about I think there was something like 20 sound effects and maybe 5 or 6 models. There wasn't too much to do. But it's not work that anyone in the team loves to do. It would be really nice if we had someone out there who loved making Quake models and wanted to do it for us.
Do you know which models they are, or which sound effects? I assume weapon sound effects, rocket launchers and stuff?
I'd have to grab the list. I haven't got it handy, but a few people have been asking me for it, so I should actually do that. Distribute the list and maybe
some people know of some good free replacements or are looking for some projects.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me, man.
No worries. Thanks for calling.
Yep.
And thanks for doing this as well. Like, I listened to the other one, I thought it was. I've wanted to do something where I tell people what I've done and why, because I think one of the problems we have is that people have been playing this game forever and they love it, and it's part of who they are as a person, and so when you make a change, even small changes, it can be really hard for people, myself included. But I try and make sure that I'm doing things for a reason, and I find often the time if someone can really get the reason, then they tend to be more inclined to embrace the change.
You understand what the thinking was, and then everything makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, like in this case, if it's like, oh, all right, so I don't actually have to discard anymore. It's like, yep. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's cool.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway, yeah, thanks for doing it. I'm really glad that you are.
Yeah, thanks again, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, see ya.
Next, we'll be looking at Lambda Fortress, a mod that looks to create cooperative campaign experiences through the Half-Life 2 campaign, playing as squads of Team Fortress 2 characters. I had the opportunity to speak with the developer Stoneman about this project. What what kind of status is the game in right now?
I would say the game is almost done. The base itself is almost ready for release, and I would say our timeline is to just, when Half-Life 2 itself is stable and people can play through the game without any issues, I would say that is when we should release. And I actually can't say when I want to release right now. It's quite hard to say, but I'm thinking this year. I believe it's almost done.
Very cool. So that'll be to play through the Half-Life 2 game and the expansions. Are you hoping to add any extra content after that?
Yes, of course. Mostly support for any other Half-Life mods. We've tried the civilian. We tried multiple mods like Mission Improbable or even map-based competitions, and they work almost perfectly fine. So I would believe some more work could be put into that, and I think it could be a pretty good Tier 2 Half-Life 2 mapping base, or even a Tier 2 campaign mode.
That sounds like a lot of fun. What weapons are going to be in the game, and are you going to add any new weapons for the co-op experience?
Yes, we're going to be trying some new weapons out, but probably not going to be every single Tier 2 weapon. Mostly because some weapons are not really good for balancing. So we're taking balance into our own hands this time. So definitely we're going to handpick some weapons here.
That's cool. What do you think is going to be the ideal game size for this? Are you envisioning like 4 people playing through the campaign?
I would say it's 6.
6?
Or so.
Yeah. So that'll be playing different classes and then comprising a composition.
That's right. I would say balancing is big. So difficulty could be something that could be worked on a lot more. Already though, the difficulty is really fun to play, but it still needs small adjustment, I guess.
This is an exciting game mode that I'm really looking forward to playing. This brings everything we love about the single-player Half-Life experiences together with what we love about the squad-based, class-based gameplay of Team Fortress. While we're waiting for the final release of this mode, there is a previous version available for download on the Lambda Fortress Discord. Just extract this folder to your source mods directory, restart Steam, and you'll find Lambda Fortress is available for launch there. There's some servers online and pretty fun gameplay already. Really looking forward to the final version of this game. That's all for this episode of the Team Fortress Talk Show. Leave a comment down below if you like this, and let me know what further topics we should look into next week.